the same thing. Shot clock at 5. Has to throw it up. And he banked it in! Como se va!
This is Victor Wembanyama. A lot of people know him for being one of the best basketball players in the entire NBA. And with him having the skill set that he has while standing at 7'4", there's been some wild conspiracies saying that he might be an alien. Which is kind of crazy because I'm sure a lot of you guys probably do not know that there is an alternate world where Victor Wembanyama met Tom Brady, and Tom convinced Victor that he could become one of the greatest receivers of all time. So today I am putting Victor Wembanyama in college football 26. Let's see what would happen if Victor prioritized football over basketball as we follow him on his road to glory. Now see, in this world, Victor still does get drafted to the NBA, and he was definitely looking forward to playing some basketball, but after finding out that there was a lot of colleges that wanted him to play football, he knew that the NBA might actually have to wait, because he is about to lock in and choose a school to go to. Now since he got drafted by the Spurs, he was thinking about going to some schools in Texas, and luckily there was actually a ton of options to choose from. Ultimately though, for Victor Wembanyama's college decision, he would decide to sign with the Baylor Bears. Now, as soon as Victor got to college, they gave him number 89. Turns out that number 1 was not available, so he had to find a new number, and eventually he would settle for number 0. Now, by the time fall camp came around, Victor was absolutely locked in. He was doing a great job making the most of his opportunities at practice, and proving that he might deserve to get some playing time as early as this year. Unfortunately though, he would be sitting at wide receiver 5 going into the first game of the year, which means that he was definitely not going to get any playing time. And it turns out maybe Baylor could have used his help as they end up losing their first game of the year. Now either way, Wemby was focused on working his way up this depth chart. He was doing whatever he could to improve upon his skills, and he was staying patient as he waited for his opportunity. And to be fair, it was probably easy for him to be patient as he still had opportunities elsewhere. Cause soon it was time for the Spurs to open up their training camp, and yup, see, Wemby making big plays on the court already. Now so y'all can understand that this man Wemby is different. You're not supposed to be 7'4" and be able to do stuff like this. The Spurs knew immediately that he was going to be a problem, and the coaches couldn't wait to see just how great his potential could really be. But it turns out that his college coaches were thinking the same thing. They were giving him a chance to move up to the 4th spot on the depth chart, and Wemby had done a great job taking advantage of the opportunity as he was now wide receiver 4. And soon it seemed like the entire world was hyped to watch Wembanyama make his college football debut. The coaches told him that they'll give him a little bit of playing time here at home against the worst team on their schedule, as they're set to face off against FCS Southeast. Now unfortunately, Wemby was not getting much action at all in this game. And when he did, it was kind of crazy, man, because he was sitting there literally wide open, and they just pretty much refused to pass him the ball. But I guess it was all good though, because Baylor did go on to take a 14-6 W. They did not score very many points against the worst team on their schedule, but somehow they came out here the following week without Victor playing a single snap and got the victory against a top 10 team in the country. I think it was at this point where the coaches realized that they got to start taking this season more serious. So they told Victor that he was now getting the opportunity to get some more playing time. And I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, man, in these practices, Victor looked ready. He had the coaches convinced that he could make an impact for this team, so they decided it was officially time to move him up to wide receiver 3. Victor Wembanyama was about to get some more playing time and hopefully contribute to his team getting another win. It was definitely going to be tough though with them heading on the road to face off against an undefeated Big 12 opponent, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now Victor was finally coming into the game here in the second quarter, where on his very first play, Victor was coming up with his first catch of his college football career. The coaches would immediately take him out for a while as he did not come back until the 4th quarter. We're up 14-3, it seems like Victor's starting to get a little bit more comfortable in this offense. He felt like sooner or later he could have a chance to make a big play, and he was hoping that it could be here as he decided to run straight downfield before he came up with the catch to bring his team to the 1-yard line. Victor Wembanyama is making a huge play, and ultimately he was doing enough to help his team get another W on the season. Baylor wins this one 21-3, and Victor felt pretty good about his 4 receptions with 48 yards. He was looking like he had potential to become a key player for this team, and he was already becoming a fan favorite. But Wemby knew that he was really only just getting started, and he was ready to keep showing the country what he can do as Baylor was heading into another game against the top 25 team in the nation, with the Bears set to face off against Kansas State. Now Victor was getting some action in the first quarter of this one, and he was already making an impact. He was coming up with a nice catch before immediately being taken out, and then he literally did not get to play at all until the fourth quarter. We're now down 21-14 with less than 2 minutes left. The Baylor Bears need somebody to make a play, but it turns out they would know exactly who to go to, as Wemby was wide open and there was nobody in his vicinity as he was streaking down the sideline for his first touchdown of his college football career. Victor Wembanyama was making a play that had helped his team tie this game up. The only question at this point was if there was too much time left on the clock, and it turns out that there was, as Baylor would lose their second game of the season, dropping this one 21-24. And honestly, man, at this point I think the coaches realized that this was all their fault. They knew that it was time to let the world know that they have an alien, and all Victor had to do was just come out here and prove it, and it's safe to say that he definitely was. This man Wemby was absolutely frying people in practice, and by the end of it he was officially moving up to wide receiver 2. And honestly, the coaches were so happy with him that they already wanted him to be wide receiver 1. But he was definitely going to get a chance to prove that as Baylor was heading into their next game, as Baylor is on the road to face off against another Big 12 opponent, and they're hoping they can get back on track against the TCU Horned Frogs. Now Wemby was out here early on third down making a big play that moved the chains for the team. He had them on a drive that extended into the second quarter, where on another third down they needed somebody to make a play, and it turns out that Wemby was there to make it. He comes up with what I believe is his second touchdown of the season and helps his team tie this game up before getting the ball right back. Baylor has another opportunity to put some points up before half, and Wemby was helping them out by getting them into scoring range, bringing us to a 2nd down and 9 where Victor drew 3 defenders to his side and opened up one of his teammates for a touchdown, allowing the Bears to go up 14-7 before half before TCU would take the lead back 21-14. Bringing us to a play where Victor not only helps his team get inside goal-to-goal territory, but also puts him well over 100 yards on the day. He was already having a great game in this one, but it's about to get even better as the screen pass gets him open for another touchdown. Victor Wembanyama was helping his team put up points in a game that eventually went to overtime, where although this team was not able to get into the end zone, they still would come up with the win. Baylor gets the job done against an in-state rival, and it was in a performance where Victor went for 184 yards. And at this point, the coaches had definitely seen enough, as they were now giving him a chance to move up to wide receiver 1. And after another day of absolutely dominating practice, Victor would finally be on top of the depth chart. The coaches were definitely comfortable with the decision after he actually wins his first Big 12 Player of the Week, and they knew that he might have a chance to win another one with him working on his jump ball skills heading into the next game of the year. Victor Wembanyama hasn't reached a fraction of his potential yet, and he's hoping that in his next game he can really break out and show the country what he can do, as Baylor is heading on the road to face off against Cincinnati. Now on Baylor's first play of their offensive drive, they decide to throw it up to Wemby, and he was able to snag this ball out the air. This man Wemby just absolutely cooked this defender, and there was nothing he can do about it. The crazy thing about Wemby though is that at 7'4", he somehow had the ability to run an elite route tree, bringing us to a play here on 1st and goal where Wemby runs some crazy shit, and somehow he comes up with a touchdown. Yeah, I don't know about that, but hey, we'll take it. Because by the second half, Baylor is down 14-7. So they know they got to throw it back up to Wemby, who keeps coming up with some big plays. This man number 8 was being torched out there, bro. He needed some help. Eventually, he would get some though, as Baylor was brought to a 4th down and 10. They were desperate for a big play here, so the quarterback decided to throw the ball up to Wemby in double coverage, so Wemby knew he had to say, no. Victor Wembanyama comes up with an incredible catch, and this actually looks like triple coverage. Oh nah, man, Wemby is different. He comes up with a play that helps his team tie this game up before heading into the 4th quarter, where with around 2 minutes left, they are now on a drive that could potentially win them this game, and this play from their running back is definitely going to help. They would end up getting to 1st down and goal, where after this quarterback keeps his read option and comes up with the score, Baylor had done enough to finally put this game away. Baylor wins this one 28-14, and it was a game that was dominated by Victor Wembanyama. He put up over 200 yards in this game, doing so well that he earned himself a National Offensive Player of the Week. And with the NBA season around the corner, man, he was getting a lot of love from the Spurs. At this point in the season, Wemby is already leading the Baylor receiving room in yards. Unfortunately though, Baylor is still not a top 25 team in the nation, and they are nowhere near close to making a college football playoff, so Wemby knows that there's still some more work to do. He has to stay locked in and help his team keep winning, and hopefully he'll be able to do exactly that as he heads into another game at home against UCF. Now on the very first play of this game, It seems like UCF has never heard of Wembanyama because they leave their cornerback on an island, and Wemby was absolutely frying this man. He comes up with a catch over the cornerback before streaking down the field, and soon he was crossing over the goal line for a touchdown to get this game started. Baylor would go up 7-0 before getting the ball back in the second quarter, where Victor was still making plays and was already over 100 yards on the day. He helped his team get down to the goal line where his quarterback had actually taken it in for a touchdown, allowing Baylor to go up 14-0 in this game already, but they would have another chance to score here before half. And after the quarterback decided to throw a bomb up to Wendy, he would snag this ball out the air. Victor Wembanyama was cooking these boys up, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought he actually dropped this ball, but hey, it turns out he might actually be an alien. Because by the end of the half, Wemby just continued to torch his defender for a touchdown. He's helping Baylor go up 3 possessions, and they've already done enough to put this game away. Baylor gets the job done in this one 24-7, and it was another huge game from Victor Wembanyama. He had absolutely dominated in this one from start to finish, and it's probably the reason why he would end up winning another Offensive Player of the Week. He was becoming a problem for opposing teams in college football. But soon though, it would actually be the Baylor Bears bye week, and Victor had promised his coaches in San Antonio that he would be there for the preseason opener. So soon it was time for Victor to lock in and make his NBA debut. Hey man, now early on in his debut, Victor is already looking different on the court. I mean, I have never seen somebody this big move like this. I mean, what am I looking at? He was already showing that he was a physical specimen, but you know what? He definitely had some room to grow. By the fourth quarter of this one though, Wemby was out here knocking down a 3 to put his team up by 15. And as great of a feeling as it was to help the Spurs come up with the win, he wanted to make sure that he could keep doing the same for the Bears. So he told the Spurs that he's going to have to be away for a while so he could really lock in for the rest of the season. He believes he can help this team make the college football playoffs, but the only way to do so is by helping his team come up with another win, this time against the 11th ranked team in the nation, Utah. Now Baylor didn't get the ball until the end of the first quarter, but when they did, Wemby was there to help them out. He would end up bringing them to a 3rd down and 3 in the second quarter, where after coming up with the catch, he broke off some tackles and he found himself in the end zone for a touchdown. Victor had Baylor up 7-0 against the top 15 team in the country. But he knew there was still more work to do after getting the ball back still up in this game. So after coming up with a catch, he would just run past this defense, and Victor looked like he was out of there. Wemby had a chance to go the distance, but he was dragged down inside the 5-yard line, bringing us to a 3rd down and goal where unfortunately they were not able to convert, and this game would actually be stuck at 10-7 till the 4th quarter, where after this 2nd down they actually decided to take Victor off the field. But I think I see why, because it turns out that they have already done enough to win this game. Baylor takes down 11th ranked Utah, and after another incredible game from Victor Wembanyama, it seems like he got the entire world hyped to watch him play. Now at this point in the season, Baylor is in position to make the conference championship. All they have to do now is just continue to play well as they try and close their season out, continuing here in their next game on the road against Arizona. Now Baylor's offense was struggling a little bit early, but things would change after Victor would snag this ball out the air. He helped his team get down to the goal line on a drive that extended into the second quarter, where on this play it looks like Arizona has to cheat in order to stop Wemby. They get called for a pass interference that puts Baylor at 1st and goal, where Wemby was easily able to box out his defender for a touchdown. He's got his team up 7-0 on the road, and eventually it would be 7-3, where with around a minute left in the half, this quarterback decided to throw this ball up to Wemby, and he was able to torch his defender for a catch. Wembanyama comes up with a big play downfield to move his team back into scoring range, bringing us to a 1st and 10 where Victor was able to run into an open zone and score another touchdown. He's got his team up by multiple possessions in the first half, and it would stay that way heading into the 4th quarter. We're on a 3rd down and 15 with Baylor needing to keep this drive alive. They decided to throw this ball up to Wemby in double coverage before he said, Victor Wembanyama was doing it again. This man is an extraterrestrial. Oh nah, see that's crazy. But what's even crazier is that he still wasn't done yet, because he would end up beating 2 defenders to the back of the end zone for another score. Oh nah man, now, there's just no way. Even Victor cannot believe what he is doing. But at this point man, he was just hyped that he helped his team come up with another win on the year. Baylor beats another Big 12 opponent 21-10, and they can definitely be thankful that Victor Wembanyama was there to lead the way. He had his best game of his career, going for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. ultimately earning himself another National Offensive Player of the Week, and it was becoming more likely that the Bears could make the college football playoffs. All they have to do is just keep playing well, hitting into the final game of the regular season, where with the chance to punch their ticket to the Big 12 championship game, they just have to find a way to take down the Houston Cougars. Now, unfortunately, on their opening drive, Baylor was not able to get much going at all. They would get to the second quarter down by 3 where they tried to take a shot downfield to Wemby, but this pass would fall incomplete and their offensive struggles would continue. It wouldn't be until around a minute left and a half where Wemby would come up with the catch before breaking off a tackle, and Wemby looks like he could be gone. He is outrunning this defense on his way to the end zone for an 80-yard touchdown. Victor Wembanyama was giving his team the lead and going for over 100 yards before the half. Now, unfortunately, many of Baylor's offensive struggles continued into the second half, all the way up until the fourth quarter, where at this point with Baylor only up by 1 point, they needed somebody to make a play. So Victor decided to say, "Wang," plucking this ball at the sky with one hand as he got his team into scoring range. It looks like they might have a chance to extend their lead here on a 3rd down and 11, but this pass would fall incomplete and Baylor would soon find themselves down in this game. They needed to get themselves back in scoring range, and a big play from Victor was going to help them do it. They were already down at the 21-yard line with less than 30 seconds left, where it turns out this running back would get loose to the end zone for a score. The Baylor Bears were taking the lead here with less than 30 seconds in this game, and they had just barely done enough to close their season out with a victory. Baylor squeaks this one out 14-9 thanks to another 100-plus yard game from Victor Wembanyama. He was an absolute nightmare for opposing defenses to play against, and it was mostly because of him that Baylor was getting to the Big 12 championship. He had worked hard to become a top-level receiver after just learning about football a year ago, but he knows that with Baylor now heading into the biggest game of the season, that he's going to have to be even better. And if the Bears want any chance of punching their ticket to the college football playoffs, they're going to have to lock in and take down the 3rd-ranked team in the nation, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now, things were looking pretty good early on here for Baylor against Texas Tech. Although they were down by 7, this offense was moving downfield, and with the help of Victor Wembanyama, they were able to get themselves in scoring range. Where on 1st and 10, Victor found himself running up the middle of the field, where the quarterback found him before he dove across the goal line for a touchdown. Victor is able to tie this game up for his team before Texas Tech takes the lead back, bringing us to a 2nd and 10 where Baylor believed that Victor would be able to say "Wang" as he snags this ball out the air and brings his team to a 1st down and goal. Victor was helping to put his team in a position to score, and after he comes off the field on the next play, they do as they take the lead 14-10. And you know what, man, they even had Wemby come out here and play a little bit of quarterback too, leading a drive that helped get them a field goal before half. But it was actually after halftime where things would get even better for Baylor, because even though on this play Victor was double covered, he would still come up with the play. Victor Wembanyama was getting his team back in a position to score, but then all of a sudden the momentum really started to shift towards Texas Tech. Because not only was Baylor getting stopped, but they also had a flag called on them, eventually leading to a 20-17 game. Where on 3rd down and 10, Baylor had a chance to put this game away with a shot deep to Wemby, but this pass was falling incomplete, and now all Wemby could do was just watch from the sidelines as this defense would take the field and come up with a stop. The Baylor Bears were winning the Big 12 championship game, and it might have been the first time that they've done so since Robert Griffin III was at quarterback. They were now kings of the conference, and they could mostly thank their freshman receiver, who not only won himself another Player of the Week, but since it's the end of the season, there are some awards to be given out, and he would end up winning the Sean Alexander Award. Victor was able to go for over 1,400 yards on the season. Now let's not forget, he didn't even get to play for the first few games of the year, so this is kind of crazy. He earned himself honors as a 1st-team All-Big 12 and a 2nd-team All-American. He was widely considered to be a top 5 receiver in the nation, and the stats seem to agree. He had absolutely dominated all throughout his freshman season, and it was because of him that Baylor would get to the college football playoffs. They now had a chance to make history and potentially win their 1st ever national championship. All they had to do now is just head on the road and face off against another top 10 team in the country, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Now this game was starting off amazing for Baylor as Wemby was coming up with a catch and getting across the goal line for a touchdown. Baylor took the 7-0 lead here to get this game going, and they were trying to keep it going at the end of the 1st quarter, but their quarterback threw an interception. And this was definitely a bad one that would lead to South Carolina taking the 14-7 lead, but you know what, it was all good when Baylor had a guy like Victor Wembanyama who could just snatch this ball out the air. Wemby comes up with another touchdown on the day to tie this game up, at least until the second half came around where South Carolina would take the lead back. But on his 3rd down and 5, even in double coverage, Wemby was still making a big play. He was single-handedly keeping his team alive in this game as he continued to come up with some incredible catches. This man was phenomenal, and it looked like he was about to get his team back to the end zone. Never mind. It turns out that all of a sudden Baylor's quarterback was playing terrible. South Carolina is the first defense all year to finally cover Wemby correctly, and it seems like it's paying off because on the very next drive, the quarterback throws another pick. This time though, South Carolina is taking this one to the crib for a touchdown, and they're also taking any chance for Baylor to win a national championship with them, because this pick six would officially put an end to Wembanyama's freshman season. Baylor would lose to South Carolina 35-21, and it was actually a game where Wemby went for over 200 yards. He continued to dominate even until the very end, and although his team could not get to the championship, he was definitely proud about how they played throughout the year. And he was also proud of himself for having such a spectacular season, going for over 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns. He was just glad that he was able to show the country what he can do on the field. But soon it would be time for him to show what he can do on the court, because it was now time for the NBA season. And it was no surprise to anybody that Victor was looking like one of the best players in the league already. But even then, players like LeBron James still couldn't believe what they were seeing. But even though Victor did love basketball, he absolutely could not wait to get back on the field. But in the offseason, he was really thinking about his future in football, and he was inspiring other players in the NBA to do the same. I mean, he even had LeBron James wondering what would have happened if he decided to play football instead of basketball. But at this point, Victor was becoming a problem on the court and on the field, and a lot of people could not wait to see what he would be able to do throughout his career. But this was Victor Wembanyama in College Football 26. If you want to see a part 2, be sure to get this video to 1,000 likes and subscribe to the channel down below. Also, be sure to comment down below who else you guys want to see next, and you two think you'll like one of these other stories until the next one comes out. If you got to this point in the video, just know that I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And other than that, I'm gonna catch you guys next time.